She stood in the dust, with two starving children clinging to her dress, eyes full of desperation, and whispered, "Take me as your wife, or my babies won't survive another winter." The lonely cowboy never expected those words to change his life forever. The autumn wind swept across the plains, carrying with it the scent of dying grass and distant storms. Luke Carver rode his horse slow along the ridge, the same trail he traveled every year when the world grew quiet. A man could get lost in the loneliness out here. Some said Luke already had. His wife and newborn child had died 8 years ago, and ever since, Luke talked more to his horse than he did to people. But that morning, his quiet world shifted. From a distance, he saw 3 figures standing near the old trading post ruins. As he rode closer, the sight made him sit straighter. A thin Apache woman wrapped in a worn blanket, and beside her 2 little children, one barely old enough to walk. The woman stepped forward cautiously. Her braids were messy, her face tired, but her dark eyes were sharp with courage. The children clung to her legs as she raised a trembling hand. "You are Cowboy, Luke Carver?" she asked in broken English. Luke slid off his horse. "That's me. Something wrong?" She swallowed, nerves shaking her voice. "My name is Naya. My husband died last winter. My tribe moved south, too far. My family gone. My children hungry." Luke's chest tightened. He noticed the little girl's hollow cheeks and the boy's bare feet blistered from walking. Then Naya said something that stopped the wind in his lungs. "I beg you, take me as your wife. My children need a home. I have nothing else to offer." Luke froze. Marriage? To a woman he'd just met? He shook his head, stunned. "Ma'am, I think you're desperate. You don't need to." She stepped closer suddenly, desperation turning to courage. "Please, winter comes. I cannot hunt enough. They will die. You live alone. You have no woman, no children. Take us in. I will work. I will serve. I will be good wife." The children looked up at Luke, their eyes big and scared. Luke felt a sting in his chest. Memories of his own baby, lost before he could ever protect her. He rubbed his face, torn. "Naya, you don't even know me." "I know you are kind," she whispered. "Kind men are rare." The wind grew colder. Luke glanced at her thin arms, the way she hid her worry behind brave eyes, the way she stood between her children and the world like a shield. He sighed deeply. "I can take you home, at least till you're safe. But marriage, that ain't something to rush." Naya lowered her head, crushed, thinking he was rejecting her. "But," Luke added softly, "I won't let your little ones go hungry. Not while I'm around." Her eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. She nodded gently, whispering, "Thank you, Cowboy." As Luke helped the children onto his horse, he didn't know it yet, but that desperate plea on a lonely stretch of land was about to reshape the life he thought was already over. Luke's cabin sat near a quiet creek surrounded by cottonwoods. When they arrived, the children ran to the water instantly, splashing their hands and laughing for the first time in days. Naya watched them with a mixture of relief and fear, as though happiness might break if she touched it. Inside, Luke lit a fire and handed her a warm bowl of stew. She accepted it carefully, almost reverently. "You don't owe me anything," Luke said as he set down extra blankets for the children. Naya stared into the fire. "I owe you everything." Luke sighed. "You offered marriage. I know you did it for them, not because you wanted to." She looked up sharply. "I want them to live. That is what I want. A husband, a protector, someone who will not hurt us. That is more than many women get." Luke couldn't argue with that. The frontier was cruel. He'd seen enough bodies buried under lonely mounds of dirt to know. Over the next days, Naya proved she was no helpless woman. She chopped wood, fished for trout, taught her children to gather herbs. She fixed the broken hinge on his door using twine and a stone tool she made herself. Luke watched her with quiet awe, how she carried pain like a boulder but still stood tall. The children adored him, especially little Tama, who followed Luke everywhere like a shadow. One night, after the children slept, Naya approached Luke at the fire. "You think I ask marriage because I want your things," she said quietly. "I think you're scared," Luke replied. She nodded. "Yes, but not of you." Luke looked at her hands, calloused, scraped, strong, hands that had worked through grief and hunger, hands that deserved rest. She took a deep breath. "Cowboy, I do not want pity. If you take us, you take all of me. My past, my pain, my children. I ask you again, will you take me as your wife?" Her voice trembled, not from fear but from hope she didn't dare believe in. Luke stared into her eyes. For years he had lived like a ghost, surviving but not living. This woman, this fierce, lonely widow, had walked out of nowhere and brought warmth into a home long gone cold. He stood, heart pounding. "Naya, you deserve better than a broken man like me." She stepped closer, placing her hand over his. Broken people can still build something strong. Luke's breath caught, but before he could answer, a sudden noise cracked from outside, the sound of horses. Naya's face went pale. "Someone followed us," she whispered. Luke grabbed his rifle. Their new fragile world was about to be tested. Luke pushed Naya and the children behind the table and stepped outside. 3 riders approached, their silhouettes sharp against the moonlit prairie. Luke recognized one instantly, a trader known for exploiting Apache families, a man Naya had once fled from. He tipped his hat mockingly. "Carver, heard you're keeping something that belongs to me." Luke cocked his rifle. "A woman ain't property. Turn around." The trader sneered. "Apache scum always needs someone to own them. I was doing her a favor." Inside the cabin, Naya pressed her hands over her children's ears, whispering prayers under her breath. Luke stepped forward. "You come any closer, you'll meet your maker." The trader laughed and reached for his gun. Luke fired first. Chaos erupted. Horses reared, dust spun up. The trader's men scrambled, returning shots blindly. Luke moved like a man with something worth dying for, because for the first time since he'd buried his wife and baby, he did. When the gunfire finally died, the men fled into the dark, wounded pride driving them away. Luke walked back inside, breathing hard. Naya rushed to him, her hands trembling as she checked his arms, his chest, searching for wounds. "You are hurt?" "No," he whispered. Then she threw her arms around him, shaking. "You protected us," she breathed. "No man has ever... not like this." Luke held her gently, stunned by the warmth of her embrace. He'd forgotten what it felt like to be needed. When she looked up at him, her eyes shone with fierce devotion. "Now you know why I asked," she said softly. "You are strong. You are kind. My children smile because of you. And my heart..." Her voice broke. "My heart chooses you." Luke cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear. "Naya, if you're willing, I'll be your husband. I'll raise your little ones like my own, and I'll spend the rest of my days protecting all 3 of you." She covered her mouth as tears of relief streamed down her face. The children woke, rubbing their eyes, confused by the quiet emotion filling the room. Naya knelt and pulled them close. "We have a home now," she whispered. "A real home." Luke placed his hand over all three of them. In that small cabin near the creek, a lonely cowboy found the family he never thought he'd have again, and a poor Apache widow who once begged to be taken as a wife just so her children might survive. Found love she never knew existed, not out of desperation, but out of destiny.